All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are going way beyond the basics of the energy audit. Forget about just checking a compliance box. We're talking about sharpening that audit into a tool for real, measurable competitive advantage. Think of this as a deep dive on how to elevate the audit from a simple report into the absolute cornerstone of your organization's strategy. So let me just ask you this straight up. When you're done, is your audit just a binder that ends up on a shelf? Or is it a living document, the actual blueprint that's driving your entire energy management strategy? That shift in thinking, well, that's everything we're going to cover. Because a properly executed audit, it's so much more than just a tool for finding a few quick savings. It is, without a doubt, the foundation, the cornerstone of any serious long-term energy management program. And this is exactly where we move beyond that simple cost-cutting mindset. A strategic audit is what feeds the engine of your continuous improvement programs. It's what establishes those critical baselines you need for benchmarking and actually tracking progress. It underpins standards like ISO 50001. You see, it elevates the whole conversation from short-term wins to long-term economic competitiveness, environmental goals, and even energy security. And look, if you need that one killer statistic to get management to sit up and pay attention, this is it. A really thorough audit routinely uncovers 10 to 20% in savings from operational changes alone. We're talking about the low-hanging fruit here, the stuff that proves the value of this whole process from day one. Okay, so knowing the strategic value is one thing, but choosing the right tool for the job, that's a whole other challenge. Not all audits are created equal, and making the right choice depends entirely on what you're trying to achieve. Now, we all know the ASHRAE levels, right? But the strategic decision is really in the trade-offs. A level 1 is fantastic for getting those quick wins. A level 2, that's really the workhorse for most of your EMO or energy management opportunity decisions. But if you're going after major capital projects, you absolutely need that investment-grade data you can only get from a level 3. Nothing less is going to get you across the finish line with the finance department. And for those of you working with energy performance contracts, the distinction gets even sharper. An investment-grade audit, or IGA, takes everything from a level 3 and then adds a crucial layer, a weighted risk analysis. This moves it beyond pure engineering and gives you the financial certainty you need to actually back a performance-based contract. It's a very specific and a very powerful tool. So regardless of which level you choose, success really hinges on a rigorous, disciplined process. The industry standard 3-phase framework is what ensures nothing important falls through the cracks. And here they are, the 3 pillars: preparation, inspection, and finally, analysis. It sounds pretty simple, I know, but the quality of your results is entirely dependent on how well you execute each and every one of these phases. Let's spend a minute on phase 1, because frankly, the success of your audit is mostly determined before you ever set foot on site. We're talking deep historical data, 12, even 36 months of utility bills. You need an almost forensic understanding of their rate structure. You need layouts, equipment lists, operating hours, and of course, you absolutely have to conduct a comprehensive safety briefing. This homework is totally non-negotiable. And this really gets to the core of the on-site work. Equipment specs, the nameplate data. That tells you the engineering potential. But interviews, observation, that tells you the operational reality. And the gap between those two, that's where the biggest savings are almost always hiding. Which brings us to phase 2, uncovering the ground truth. You have got to talk to the people who run the machines day in and day out. You have to walk the facility, not just during the main shift, but during off hours, on weekends, to see what's really being left on. This is where you get the operational context that raw data completely misses. And it's where you'll start spotting those EMOs in the wild. All right, now for the final and maybe most critical phase. This is where we transform all that raw intelligence into a compelling business case that actually drives decisions and, most importantly, action. I think everyone listening knows this in their bones. The report itself has literally zero value. Its value is only realized when its recommendations are put into practice. So your entire analysis, your whole reporting process has to be engineered toward that one single goal: getting to yes. Now, the economic analysis often kicks off with a metric we all know: simple payback. And it's a useful first screen for sure. A 2.5-year payback, yeah, that'll get people's attention. but it is rarely enough to secure serious capital. And this is just so critical. Simple payback period is not enough when you're asking for real money. It completely ignores the time value of money, and it ignores all the savings that happen after the payback period. When you're in there competing for funding against other business priorities, you have to speak the language of finance. And that means net present value and internal rate of return. That's how you build a robust, defensible business case. So what does that final, truly actionable report look like? Well, it needs a sharp, concise executive summary for the C-suite. It needs a detailed, prioritized list of opportunities. And critically, it needs a clear action plan that assigns ownership, designates an energy monitor to actually own the results. It's not a data dump. It's a strategic roadmap. But let's be real. The world is a messy place. Even the most perfect audit report can die on the vine if you don't anticipate and navigate the common hurdles that stand in the way of implementation. Take a look at this breakdown. It's fascinating. Data accuracy, sure, that's a technical challenge and it's a big piece of the pie. But look what's just as big: economic justification, human behavior, and sustaining the results over time. The big takeaway here is that your engineering can be absolutely perfect, but the financial and the human elements are just as likely to derail the entire project. And that really leads to the final strategic shift we need to make. An audit report might identify a project, but long-term, sustained savings, they only come from building a management system. It's about creating a process, a culture, not just checking off a task on a list. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. The audit's done. The opportunities are all laid out on the table. The real work, it's just beginning. What system, what process, what cultural framework are you going to build to make sure those savings don't just appear for a quarter, but that they actually persist for years to come? That, right there, is the hallmark of a truly strategic energy audit.